Chris, editor of TameBay, and I'm here with David Nichols of OFX. David, who are you? What do you do?
Yeah, I'm the commercial director for our e-commerce product, the OFX Global Currency Account, and I look after that globally for OFX.
So one of the things I wanted to talk about is there's been a lot of fluctuation in currencies lately. It's been like a roller coaster with pound going up and down, euro going up and down. What have retailers been telling you about currency and how it's affecting their businesses?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's been a very big year for currency, especially the pound, looking like it's going to be recovering a little bit against the dollar and the euro, doing it for a bit and then falling again. And there's no doubt about it that online retailers are concerned about that and much more acutely aware of how they need to manage it. And how they manage it varies depending on the particular type of customer that we have. First and foremost, they educate themselves on why currency markets are moving. I don't think you can take any action or manage anything in business unless you understand what the risk is and how it's affecting you. And then from there, they obviously take advantage of a number of different tools and services that we can offer them in order to help manage that risk that they've got when they're exposed to the currency markets.
So tell us more about those services. What are retailers looking for? What solutions are they looking for to their currency problems?
Yeah, of course. Well, again, it depends on where they're exposed, but typically an online seller is going to be exposed to either currency fluctuation because they're buying their supplies from overseas, or it might be that they're selling internationally and they're collecting revenue from overseas and having to bring that home. And so the way that they would manage that would be in a number of different ways. But effectively, if they were buying supplies from overseas, they could use what's called a forward contract, which would secure today's exchange rate for up to a year in advance.
So you can actually fix it for a year
today,
and that gives you some certainty. So that's great, but how do I actually pay for that contract? I know I've got a bill I've got to pay maybe in 6 months' time for supplies from my manufacturer. Do I have to pay you now? Do I pay you at the end?
Yeah, no, very good question. So no, you would just speak to us or go onto your online platform. You would secure the exchange rate, pay us a small deposit, and then you would pay the balance of that contract when you needed to send the money. If you didn't need to send the money all at once, you could just pay a portion of it and we would send that for you, and then you would still have that exchange rate to use for supplies further down the line if you needed.
So you don't have to have all the money today and have it tied up for 6 months. Use a small deposit and then you pay at the end as you normally would, but you know exactly what you're going to be paying.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, cash flow is very important. You don't need to tie all of that up today in order to hedge for that supply, paying your suppliers further down the line. You can manage that risk and that cost without having the cash today.
Now, I think you mentioned something the other day about if I'm selling, say, in the US in dollars, that I don't have to change that back to sterling if they want to pay a Chinese seller in dollars. Could you touch on that and explain how that would work?
Yeah, of course. I mean, critically, that's the other side of the currency exposure. So we've spoken about if you're paying your suppliers overseas, but there's also the element if you're selling internationally. You need to collect that money internationally and bring it home. And so there's a number of different ways that you can help manage your currency risk through that mechanism too. So using a service like ours, you can collect that money overseas in foreign currency revenue. You could choose to bring it back home if you wanted to at a much better exchange rate than you would get with a marketplace or a payment processor. But crucially, if you're trying to manage risk, you could use the currency that you've collected internationally to pay your suppliers in the same currency. So the example that I was giving you the other day is if you're selling internationally in the US and you're collecting US dollars, you could use those US dollars to then pay your suppliers in China in US dollars as well. And then you could just continue that circle until you wanted to bring the money back to the UK at a good exchange rate and bring that back when you were ready to.
So it's not just managing, you might be able to eliminate some of the currency risk entirely.
Exactly, you wash it out. So you do same currency payments wherever you can just to minimise your exposure to the market until you're in an operating position where you're ready to bring it back. And in fact, that's what large enterprises do. And what we're doing is giving small businesses access to a similar service that they wouldn't have otherwise been able to utilise.
And very briefly for our listeners, where do they go to find out more?
Yeah, if you just come to our website, ofx.com, all the information's on there when you just search for all of our resources for online sellers.
Dave, thank you very much.
Thanks a lot.